Before we dive deep into this forbidden knowledge that has been hidden from humanity for centuries, I need to ask you something crucial. What time is it right now where you're watching this? And where in the world are you? I'm asking this because the time you're receiving this information and your location on this planet actually affects how this ancient wisdom will resonate with your soul's frequency. And if you're watching this anywhere near 3 a.m., well, you're about to understand why your soul guided you here at this exact moment. You've probably been told that 3 a.m. is just another hour on the clock, that it's simply the middle of the night when most people are asleep. But what if I told you that's the biggest lie you've ever been told? What if I revealed to you that 3 a.m. isn't just any ordinary time? It's actually a portal, a crack between dimensions where your soul becomes completely exposed, vulnerable, and accessible to forces that most people don't even know exist. The ancient mystery schools knew the secret. The Egyptian priests understood this truth. The Tibetan monks have guarded this knowledge for thousands of years. And every indigenous shaman across every continent has warned about the danger and the power of this specific hour. But here's what they don't want you to know. Here's the forbidden truth that has been suppressed by those who control the narrative of human consciousness. At 3 a.m., your soul literally detaches from your physical body and travels to dimensions that exist parallel to our reality. And during this journey, you're not protected by the normal barriers that keep your consciousness safe during regular sleep hours. Think about it. Have you ever noticed that most paranormal activity happens around 3 a.m.? Have you ever wondered why horror movies always use this time to show supernatural encounters? Have you ever experienced sleep paralysis, strange dreams, or unexplained phenomena specifically around this hour? This isn't coincidence. This is your soul experiencing what the ancient texts call the hour of spiritual vulnerability, when the veil between worlds becomes thinner than paper and entities from other dimensions can actually interact with your consciousness in ways that can fundamentally change your entire existence. But here's where this gets absolutely mind-blowing. The reason 3 a.m. is called the devil's hour isn't because the devil himself appears. That's just a simplified religious interpretation that was created to keep people in fear and prevent them from understanding the real truth. The real reason this hour is so significant is because it represents the exact opposite of 3 p.m., which in Christian tradition is when Jesus died on the cross, creating what mystics call the sacred hour of divine connection. So 3 a.m. becomes the inverse, the shadow hour, the time when instead of connecting with divine light, your consciousness naturally gravitates toward the shadow realms, the underworld, the dimensions where your deepest fears, your suppressed traumas, your karmic debts, and your soul's unresolved business all reside. This is why ancient Egyptian priests would perform their most powerful rituals at this exact time. They understood that 3 a.m. is when the soul's defenses are completely down, when your subconscious mind has no filters, when your consciousness is literally swimming in the cosmic soup of infinite possibilities and infinite dangers. The hermetic teachings speak of this as the hour of truth, because at 3 a.m., you cannot lie to yourself, you cannot hide from your shadow self, you cannot pretend to be someone you're not. Your soul is completely naked and exposed to the universe in its rawest form. The Tibetan Book of the Dead specifically warns about this time period, describing it as when the consciousness wanders in the Bardo realms without protection, and they developed elaborate meditation techniques and protective visualizations specifically for navigating this dangerous hour safely. Now here's what's absolutely fascinating and terrifying at the same time. Modern sleep research has accidentally confirmed what these ancient traditions knew all along. Scientists have discovered that around 3 a.m., your body experiences what they call the cortisol dip, where your stress hormones reach their lowest point, your immune system is at its weakest, your body temperature drops to its minimum, and your brain enters the deepest stages of REM sleep. But here's what the scientists don't understand. This isn't just biological, this is spiritual. Your soul is literally using this biological state to escape your physical body and travel to dimensions that exist beyond space and time. The reason your body becomes so vulnerable at this hour is because most of your life force energy, your consciousness, your soul is actually somewhere else entirely. This is why people who die in their sleep most commonly pass away around 3 a.m. It's not because their body fails, it's because their soul chooses not to return from its interdimensional journey. This is why hospitals report the highest number of unexplained deaths between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. It's the hour when souls make the decision to cross over permanently instead of returning to the physical realm. The ancient Greeks called this the hour of Hades, when the god of the underworld would open the gates between the world of the living and the world of the dead, allowing souls to travel freely between both realms. Egyptian mythology describes this as when Ra, the sun god, would journey through the underworld in his solar bark, and any soul that wasn't properly protected would be drawn into this journey through the darkness, potentially getting lost in the shadow realms forever. But here's where this knowledge becomes absolutely life-changing. Once you understand why your soul is vulnerable at 3 a.m., you can learn to protect yourself and even use this hour for incredible spiritual advancement. The same vulnerability that makes you susceptible to negative entities and lower vibrational experiences can be transformed into your greatest spiritual asset when you know how to navigate these realms consciously. The advanced practitioners in Tibetan Buddhism have a specific meditation called the darkness practice that they perform exclusively at 3 a.m., where they deliberately enter these shadow realms while maintaining full consciousness, allowing them to confront and integrate their deepest fears, heal their karmic wounds, and emerge with supernatural abilities and profound wisdom. The ancient Egyptian mystery schools had initiates who would spend entire nights in the pyramids during the 3 a.m. hour, using the geometric energy of these structures to amplify their spiritual protection while their consciousness explored the infinite dimensions of existence. These initiates would emerge from these experiences with the ability to see the future, communicate with beings from other dimensions, and access knowledge from the akashic records that would normally take lifetimes to obtain. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn developed elaborate rituals specifically designed for the 3 a.m. hour, understanding that this was when magical workings would be most powerful because the practitioner's consciousness could directly interface with the raw energy of creation itself. Here's what most people don't realize. Every single night at 3 a.m., whether you're awake or asleep, your soul is making a choice. It's choosing between evolution and stagnation, between light and shadow, between growth and regression. If you're unconscious during this hour, if you're simply sleeping without awareness, then your soul is at the mercy of whatever forces happen to encounter it in the astral realms. This is why some people wake up from sleep feeling drained, exhausted, or emotionally heavy even after getting a full night's rest. Their soul has been engaged in battles, negotiations, or learning experiences in other dimensions that their conscious mind has no memory of. But if you learn to become conscious during this hour, if you learn to maintain awareness while your soul travels through these realms, then you can direct your spiritual evolution, you can choose your experiences, you can heal your deepest wounds, and you can access levels of wisdom and power that most humans never even dream possible. The reason this knowledge has been kept hidden is because conscious souls who understand how to navigate the 3 a.m. hour become impossible to control. They become sovereign beings who cannot be manipulated by fear, who cannot be limited by societal programming, who cannot be kept small by religious dogma or materialistic thinking. The ancient Vedic traditions speak of this hour as Brahma Muhurta, the time of Brahma, when the creative force of the universe is most accessible to human consciousness. They understood that between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m., the cosmic energy is perfectly balanced between the dissolution of yesterday and the creation of tomorrow, making it the ideal time for spiritual practices that can literally reshape your reality. The yogis would rise at 3 a.m. not just to meditate, but to consciously participate in the cosmic process of creation, to align their personal will with the universal will, to become co-creators with the divine intelligence that governs all existence. The Celtic Druids called this the hour of the thin veil, when the boundaries between the physical world and the otherworld would dissolve, allowing them to communicate with ancestral spirits, receive prophetic visions, and access the wisdom of the ancient ones who had passed beyond the physical realm. Native American medicine men would conduct their most powerful healing ceremonies at this hour, understanding that the soul's vulnerability could be transformed into receptivity for healing energies that could cure diseases, resolve emotional trauma, and restore spiritual balance in ways that seemed miraculous to outside observers. But here's the shocking truth that religious institutions have deliberately hidden from you. The reason they discourage people from being awake at 3 a.m., the reason they've created fear around this hour by calling it the devil's hour, is because they know that conscious engagement with this time period leads to direct spiritual experience that bypasses all religious intermediaries. When you learn to consciously navigate the 3 a.m. hour, you don't need priests, pastors, gurus, or any external authority to tell you about God, about the afterlife, about the meaning of existence. You experience it directly. You become your own spiritual authority. You access the same divine intelligence that inspired all the great spiritual teachers throughout history. The religious control system depends on keeping people spiritually dependent, spiritually unconscious, spiritually afraid of their own power, and the 3 a.m. hour represents the greatest threat to this control because it's when your soul can break free from all conditioning and experience the truth of its infinite nature. This is why in medieval times, the Catholic Church created the prime prayer service specifically at 6 a.m., to ensure that people would sleep through the 3 a.m. hour and wake up just as the sun was rising, keeping them trapped in the solar consciousness and preventing them from accessing the lunar, mystical, shadow wisdom that can only be obtained during the darkest hours of the night. The Kabbalistic tradition has extensive teachings about what they call Tikkun Chatzot, the midnight correction, which begins at midnight and reaches its peak power at 3 a.m. They understood that this hour represents the deepest point of spiritual exile, when the divine light appears to be most distant, but paradoxically, this is when the potential for the greatest spiritual breakthroughs exists. The Kabbalists teach that at 3 a.m., the Shekinah or divine feminine presence is in mourning for the destruction of the temple, and souls who consciously connect with this energy can experience profound healing, receive divine inspiration, and even participate in the cosmic process of Tikkun Olam, the repair of the world. The Sufi mystics have a practice called Tahajjud, the night prayer, that specifically involves waking up in the hours before dawn, with 3 a.m. being considered the most potent time for achieving fana, the dissolution of the ego into divine consciousness. They understood that the darkness of night represents the darkness of the nafs, the lower self, and by consciously entering this darkness with awareness and devotion, the seeker can transform their entire spiritual nature and emerge with the light of divine knowledge illuminating their heart. Now let me share with you something that will absolutely blow your mind. The reason your soul is most vulnerable at 3 a.m. is directly connected to what quantum physicists are now discovering about the nature of consciousness and reality itself. Scientists have found that consciousness doesn't actually reside in the brain. Consciousness exists as a quantum field that interfaces with the brain through quantum entanglement, and this field is most active and most accessible when the brain is in specific states of coherence that naturally occur during deep sleep cycles around 3 a.m. What the ancient mystics called soul travel or astral projection, quantum physicists now understand as consciousness operating independently of the physical brain, accessing parallel dimensions through quantum tunneling effects that become possible when the electromagnetic field of the Earth reaches certain frequencies that occur specifically during the early morning hours. The Earth's magnetic field fluctuates throughout the day, and around 3 a.m., these fluctuations create what scientists call geomagnetic windows where consciousness can more easily transcend the normal limitations of space and time. This is why people often report out-of-body experiences, lucid dreams, prophetic visions, and encounters with deceased loved ones specifically around this hour. Their consciousness is literally accessing dimensions that exist parallel to our physical reality. The ancient Egyptians built their pyramids with specific mathematical proportions that would amplify these quantum effects at 3 a.m., creating powerful resonance chambers where consciousness could travel vast distances instantaneously. The Great Pyramid's internal chambers were designed as interdimensional portals that would only fully activate during the 3 a.m. hour, when the Earth's magnetic field would interact with the pyramid's geometry to create stable wormholes through space and time. This is why Egyptian pharaohs would spend nights in the pyramid chambers. They were literally using advanced consciousness technology to visit other worlds, communicate with beings from different dimensions, and access the infinite library of cosmic knowledge that exists beyond our physical reality. The mystery schools of ancient Greece, Rome, and Egypt all recognized that the 3 a.m. hour was when initiates could undergo their most profound transformations, when the veils between ordinary consciousness and cosmic consciousness would dissolve completely, allowing them to download information directly from what they called the mind of God. But here's what's truly terrifying for those who want to keep humanity spiritually enslaved. When you learn to consciously work with the 3 a.m. hour, you don't just access information, you access power. You access the ability to literally reshape reality through the focused application of consciousness operating at quantum levels. The ancient magicians, sorcerers, and shamans all knew that 3 a.m. was when their spells, rituals, and ceremonies would be most effective because consciousness at this hour can directly influence the quantum field that underlies all physical manifestation. This is why modern governments and intelligence agencies have secret programs studying what they call psychic warfare and remote viewing. They know that consciousness operating at 3 a.m. can access information and influence events across vast distances of space and time. The reason this knowledge is kept classified is because if ordinary people understood how to harness their consciousness during the 3 a.m. hour, the current power structures based on control, manipulation, and deception would completely collapse. The Tibetan practice of dream yoga is specifically designed to transform the vulnerability of the 3 a.m. hour into spiritual empowerment through conscious dreaming techniques that allow practitioners to maintain full awareness while their consciousness travels through multiple dimensions simultaneously. Advanced dream yoga practitioners can literally live multiple lives in parallel realities during a single night's sleep, accessing wisdom and experiences from countless incarnations across space and time. They learn to recognize when their consciousness is operating in the physical dimension, the astral dimension, the causal dimension, and the absolute dimension all at the same time, allowing them to integrate information and abilities from all levels of existence. The most advanced practitioners can even bring back physical objects from other dimensions, heal diseases by operating on the energy body while the physical body sleeps, and communicate with enlightened beings who exist in pure consciousness beyond any physical form. These abilities aren't supernatural, they're the natural result of understanding how consciousness actually operates when freed from the limitations of ordinary waking awareness. Here's something that will change how you view sleep forever. The ancient Vedantic texts describe 3 states of consciousness: waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, but they also describe a 4th state called turiya, which is pure consciousness witnessing all 3 states simultaneously. The 3 a.m. hour is when turiya consciousness is most accessible because the boundaries between waking, dreaming, and deep sleep become completely fluid, allowing you to experience your true nature as the eternal witness of all states of consciousness. When you learn to maintain turiya awareness during the 3 a.m. hour, you realize that you are not your thoughts, not your emotions, not your body, not even your soul. You are the infinite consciousness in which all experiences arise and dissolve like waves in the ocean. This realization is what the Buddha called enlightenment, what the Vedantists call self-realization, what the Christians call union with God, and what quantum physicists call consciousness collapse of the wave function. The 3 a.m. hour is nature's gift to humanity, providing a daily opportunity to transcend all limitations and experience the absolute truth of existence directly. The shamanic traditions worldwide have always recognized 3 a.m. as the power hour when the shaman's consciousness can travel to the upper world to receive guidance from the spirits, to the lower world to retrieve lost soul parts and heal spiritual wounds, and to the middle world to influence events in ordinary reality through focused intention and ritual action. Shamans understand that during the 3 a.m. hour, the shaman's consciousness becomes a bridge between dimensions, allowing healing energy to flow from the spirit world into the physical world in ways that can produce instant miraculous healings that appear impossible from a purely materialistic perspective. The reason shamanic healing is so effective is that it operates during the 3 a.m. consciousness state where the normal laws of physics don't apply, where thought directly becomes reality, where intention instantly manifests as healing, and where love can literally restructure matter at the molecular level. Modern energy healers who understand this principle schedule their most important healing sessions during the early morning hours because they know that both the healers and the patient's consciousness will be most receptive to transformation during this powerful time window. The ancient Chinese practice of Qigong includes specific exercises called midnight Qi cultivation that are designed to gather and circulate universal life force energy during the 3 a.m. hour when this energy is most abundant and most accessible to human consciousness. Qigong masters understand that between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., the Earth's energy field is in perfect harmony with the cosmic energy field, creating optimal conditions for consciousness to merge with the Tao, the fundamental creative principle of existence. Advanced Qigong practitioners can literally absorb energy directly from the cosmos during this hour, storing this energy in their body's energy centers for later use in healing, manifestation, and spiritual development. They learn to transform the vulnerability of the 3 a.m. hour into invulnerability by becoming so aligned with universal energy that no negative force can affect them, no disease can touch them, and no limitation can contain them. But here's the most important secret of all. The reason your soul is vulnerable at 3 a.m. is because this is when your higher self, your soul's true essence, is trying to communicate with your conscious mind about your life purpose, your spiritual mission, and the lessons you came here to learn. Your higher self exists in dimensions beyond space and time, and it can only effectively communicate with your earthbound consciousness when your rational mind is offline and your heart is open to receiving guidance from beyond the physical realm. Every time you experience restlessness, unusual dreams, or spontaneous awakening around 3 a.m., your higher self is trying to download important information about your spiritual path, about decisions you need to make, about people you need to meet, about opportunities you need to recognize, about healing you need to receive, or about gifts you need to develop and share with the world. The vulnerability you feel at 3 a.m. isn't a weakness, it's your soul's natural receptivity to divine guidance that can transform your entire life when you learn to listen with conscious awareness instead of dismissing these experiences as mere sleep disturbances. The ancient mystery school initiation processes always included periods of isolation and complete darkness during the 3 a.m. hour because the masters understood that this was when the initiate's consciousness could most easily access the akashic records, the cosmic library containing all knowledge that has ever existed or ever will exist. Initiates would emerge from these experiences with complete understanding of their soul's journey through multiple lifetimes, clear knowledge of their spiritual gifts and abilities, and detailed awareness of their mission in the current incarnation. This is why the Egyptian, Greek, and Tibetan mystery schools produced individuals with seemingly superhuman abilities. They had learned to consciously access infinite intelligence during the 3 a.m. hour and integrate this knowledge into their daily consciousness. The reason modern education systems keep people busy with meaningless activities during the early morning hours is to prevent them from accessing this same source of infinite wisdom that would make all traditional educational approaches completely obsolete. The hermetic principle as above, so below reveals that the 3 a.m. hour on Earth corresponds to specific cosmic alignments that occur when our planet's consciousness field is most directly connected to the galactic center, the source of all spiritual evolution in our cosmic region. Ancient astrologers understood that 3 a.m. represents the moment when our local time zone is most perfectly aligned with cosmic time, creating a synchronicity window where personal intentions can directly influence cosmic patterns and cosmic energies can directly transform personal consciousness. This is why all genuine magical traditions perform their most important workings at 3 a.m. They understand that consciousness operating at this hour can literally collaborate with cosmic intelligence to create changes that ripple through multiple dimensions of reality simultaneously. Modern chaos magicians and ceremonial magicians who understand this principle report success rates approaching 100% when they perform their workings during the 3 a.m. hour with proper preparation and genuine spiritual intent. Here's something that will revolutionize your understanding of reality. The reason traditional religions discourage nighttime spiritual practices and promote early morning prayers instead is because they want to keep people connected to solar consciousness, masculine energy, rational thinking, and external authority, while preventing them from accessing lunar consciousness, feminine wisdom, intuitive knowledge, and internal spiritual authority that becomes available during the 3 a.m. hour. Solar consciousness operates through hierarchy, control, competition, and separation, while lunar consciousness operates through cooperation, intuition, unity, and love. The patriarchal religious systems that have dominated human civilization for the past several thousand years depend on keeping people trapped in solar consciousness, where they remain dependent on external spiritual authorities instead of recognizing their own direct connection to divine intelligence. The 3 a.m. hour represents a return to the ancient goddess traditions, the lunar mysteries, and the feminine wisdom that honors the darkness as equally sacred to the light, understanding that true spiritual development requires integration of both shadow and illumination, both masculine and feminine principles, both solar and lunar consciousness. The advanced Tibetan practice called illusory body yoga teaches practitioners to maintain full consciousness during the 3 a.m. hour while allowing their physical body to remain in deep sleep, creating a state where consciousness can explore infinite dimensions while remaining perfectly grounded in physical reality. Practitioners learn to simultaneously exist in multiple bodies: the physical body lying asleep in bed, the energy body traveling through astral dimensions, the mental body accessing information from the akashic records, and the causal body merging with pure cosmic consciousness. This practice allows them to live multiple lifetimes in parallel, learning from experiences in countless dimensional realms while maintaining perfect integration and balance in their earthbound incarnation. The most advanced practitioners report accessing wisdom directly from enlightened masters who exist in pure consciousness, receiving teachings that would normally require decades of traditional study, and developing abilities that appear miraculous from ordinary perspective but are simply natural expressions of consciousness operating beyond normal limitations. Now here's where this knowledge becomes immediately practical for your daily life. Every morning around 3 a.m., whether you're awake or asleep, your soul is receiving a download of information about what you need to know, understand, heal, or accomplish in the coming day, week, month, or even year. If you learn to consciously tune into this daily guidance, you'll never again wonder about your life purpose. You'll never again feel confused about important decisions. You'll never again feel alone or disconnected from spiritual support, because you'll be in direct communication with your higher self and the spiritual guidance system that's constantly working to support your highest development. The key is learning to create the proper conditions for receiving this guidance. This means going to bed early enough that you can naturally awaken around 3 a.m. without an alarm clock, creating a peaceful environment free from electronic devices and artificial lighting, and developing the inner stillness necessary to distinguish between mental chatter and authentic spiritual communication. The ancient Celtic tradition of thin places recognizes that certain locations and certain times create natural portals between dimensions, and the 3 a.m. hour represents a temporal thin place that occurs regardless of your physical location. The Celts understood that consciousness during this hour can access what they called the otherworld, a realm of infinite possibilities where past, present, and future exist simultaneously, where healing can occur instantaneously, where creativity flows without limitation, and where all souls are connected in perfect unity. Celtic shamans would use this hour to communicate with ancestors, receive prophetic visions, perform healing work that transcended normal medical understanding, and access artistic inspiration that produced some of humanity's most beautiful and meaningful creative expressions. Modern Celtic practitioners report that meditation, creative work, and spiritual practices performed during the 3 a.m. hour produce results that are qualitatively different from work done during any other time period, with insights and abilities emerging that seem to come from a source beyond personal knowledge or experience. The reason sleep paralysis often occurs around 3 a.m. isn't because negative entities are attacking you. It's because your consciousness is naturally attempting to separate from your physical body for interdimensional travel, but your rational mind creates fear that interferes with this natural process. Sleep paralysis is actually an incomplete out-of-body experience where your consciousness has begun to detach from your physical body but hasn't completed the separation due to subconscious fear or resistance. Ancient traditions understood this phenomenon and developed specific techniques for transforming sleep paralysis into conscious astral projection, lucid dreaming, or mystical experience. The key is learning to surrender to the process instead of fighting it, recognizing that your consciousness is simply trying to explore dimensions beyond physical reality, and using breathing techniques and visualization to either complete the separation or return to normal body awareness with conscious control. Many of history's greatest mystics, artists, and innovators reported having their most profound spiritual experiences during episodes of sleep paralysis that they learned to navigate consciously. The Japanese practice of forest bathing or Shinrin-yoku becomes incredibly powerful when practiced during the 3 a.m. hour because this is when the consciousness of trees, plants, and natural environments is most active and most willing to communicate with human consciousness. Plants operate on completely different time cycles than humans, and their consciousness peaks during the darkest hours when they're processing the day's solar energy and preparing for the next day's growth cycle. Indigenous shamans worldwide have always known that plants are conscious beings capable of sharing wisdom, healing knowledge, and spiritual guidance with humans who approach them with proper respect and awareness. During the 3 a.m. hour, the plant kingdom's collective consciousness becomes accessible to human consciousness in ways that can produce profound healing, environmental awareness, and understanding of our interconnectedness with all life forms. Modern research in plant consciousness is beginning to validate what indigenous peoples have always known, that plants respond to human thoughts and emotions, that they communicate with each other through complex networks, and that they possess forms of intelligence that we're only beginning to understand. Here's something that will transform your relationship with fear forever. The reason people often feel afraid during the 3 a.m. hour is because their soul is encountering aspects of their own consciousness that they've been avoiding or suppressing. The shadow self, the parts of our psyche that we've rejected or denied, becomes most active during this hour when our conscious defenses are down. But instead of viewing this as dangerous, the ancient wisdom traditions understood this as an incredible opportunity for healing and integration. When you learn to consciously engage with your shadow self during the 3 a.m. hour, when you learn to embrace the parts of yourself that you've been afraid to acknowledge, you reclaim tremendous amounts of life force energy that had been tied up in suppression and avoidance. This integration process is what Carl Jung called individuation, and it's the key to becoming a whole, authentic, empowered human being who no longer needs to hide from any aspect of their true nature. The advanced practice of conscious dying developed by Tibetan Buddhists involves deliberately entering the death process while remaining fully conscious, and the 3 a.m. hour is considered optimal for this practice because it's when consciousness naturally begins to separate from physical form. Practitioners learn to experience the dissolution of physical awareness, emotional awareness, and mental awareness while maintaining pure witnessing consciousness throughout the entire process. This practice not only eliminates all fear of death but also provides direct experiential knowledge of what consciousness truly is beyond all temporary forms and identities. Practitioners report that after mastering conscious dying during the 3 a.m. hour, they live with complete fearlessness, total presence, and absolute certainty about the eternal nature of consciousness that transcends all physical limitations. This isn't morbid or dangerous when practiced correctly. It's the most liberating and empowering spiritual practice possible because it reveals the indestructible truth of what you really are beyond all temporary appearances. The final secret I want to share with you is the most important of all. The 3 a.m. hour represents humanity's daily opportunity to participate consciously in the cosmic process of evolution itself. During this hour, your individual consciousness can align with the collective consciousness of humanity, the consciousness of the Earth, the consciousness of the solar system, and the consciousness of the galaxy in ways that can literally influence the direction of evolution for all life forms. When enough humans learn to use the 3 a.m. hour for conscious spiritual development instead of unconscious vulnerability, we create what scientists call morphic resonance that makes it easier for all humans to access higher states of consciousness. This is why every spiritual tradition emphasizes the importance of dedicated practitioners who maintain spiritual practices during the darkest hours. They're not just working on their own development, they're serving as bridges for the evolution of consciousness throughout the entire human species. Your personal spiritual development during the 3 a.m. hour contributes to the collective awakening of humanity and the transformation of our planet into a conscious, loving, unified global civilization where war, poverty, disease, and environmental destruction become impossible because they're incompatible with awakened consciousness. So tonight, when 3 a.m. arrives, instead of fearing this sacred hour, instead of seeing it as a time of vulnerability, recognize it as your soul's daily appointment with infinity, your consciousness's regular meeting with the cosmic intelligence that created all existence, your spirit's opportunity to remember who you truly are beyond all limitations and return to your physical life with renewed purpose, clarity, and power. The devil's hour is only devil's hour if you approach it unconsciously, but when you approach it with awareness, intention, and reverence, it becomes the God hour, the hour when human consciousness can directly interface with divine consciousness and emerge transformed, empowered, and aligned with your highest destiny. This is the forbidden knowledge that can set you free. Use it wisely, use it consciously, and use it in service of the highest good for all existence. Remember, you are not just a human having a spiritual experience, you are an infinite consciousness having a temporary human experience, and every 3 a.m. hour is an invitation to remember this truth and live from this understanding with courage, wisdom, and unconditional love for all life everywhere.